Hey everyone, I'm getting ready to put a new batch of soap together. I'm going to make a Father's Day beer soap, kind of like a shaving soap. I'm going to be using a new fragrance by Indigo Fragrance, Teakwood and Citrus. And I'm going to be preparing my Killian's Irish Red beer. I'm going to go ahead and get the beer boiling up, and I'll show you that process because you have to burn off the alcohol. That way it won't react with the lye. So I'm going to go ahead and start that, and I'll show you as we go along. Okay, so I used two 12-ounce bottles of Killian's Irish Red, and I have it here. I'm going ahead and boil off the alcohol. Usually takes about a good half hour. You want to boil it to where it doesn't bubble anymore. So you have to stay close because it will bubble up on you, as it is doing now as it heats up. And you want to boil this till it doesn't make a foam or bubbles anymore. That way you know the alcohol is burnt out of the liquid. You want to use a little bit more than what your recipe calls for because when you boil anything, liquid does evaporate. So you're going to lose some volume here. So I went ahead and did 24 ounces, even though I won't need a full 24 ounces of liquid. By the time I'm done, most of that, some of that will be evaporated off. So we're going to go ahead and just continue with the process, and I'll show you each step. Alright, this is my beer boiling up. As you can see, it has lots of bubbles. I'm just going to stir that down, and what I want to look for is a roaring boil that forms no bubbles. And then from there, I boil it for 30 minutes. I'm then going to put it in a mason jar and set it aside overnight, so that way I can assure that it's completely flat. I'm also going to refrigerate it, so when I'm going to make the soap in the morning, it will be cool, and it won't it won't burn too many of the sugars that are in the beer. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with the process, and I'll bring you back for each step. So last night I was getting my beer ready, and I saw on previous posts to boil the beer, and then I saw on another post not to boil the beer. So I went ahead and tried and boiled my beer, and I boiled 4 bottles of beer, and I've got less than half an ounce out of that. And then this morning when I woke up, it smelled like soy sauce. So I threw that out, and what I'm doing is I have 2 bottles of Killian Red Irish Brew, 24 ounces, and I let that sit out overnight last night, and I'm going to let it sit out all day today to go ahead and let it go flat so the alcohol gets absorbed. So I am going to say that not to boil your beer. Just be patient and wait for it to go flat on its own, because when I boiled my beer, it came out horrible. So that's just a lesson learned for me. Everyone is different. You do what works best for you, but I did try both, and I wanted to show you that. So I'm going to make this soap tomorrow morning because by then it'll be 2 days that the beer has been sitting out and be flat enough. And I will bring it back to show you step by step. Hi everyone. Alright, so I got my beer all flat because I was preparing it to do this beer soap. And I'm really excited. I have a new fragrance oil to check out from Indigo Fragrance. It's Teakwood and Citrus. And I'm going to use the full ounce in that. And that is in this little cup right here. And then I have a little bit of Indonesian, camera's all over the place, Indonesian Teakwood fragrance oil there for my beer soap. I'm adding kaolin clay and Tussa Silk to this batch. Now this is my first time doing beer soap. I have my oils heating up, and I'm going to let them cool down, and I have my beer in the freezer making little ice cubes. I'm going to be doing a white top and a brown base. And I'm going to share with you this recipe because it's my first time doing beer soap. So, we can see if it works together. So I used 5.6 ounces of castor, 2.6 ounces of cocoa butter, 10 ounces of coconut oil, 22.5 ounces of olive oil pumice, and 8 ounces of palm oil. I did 15.8 ounces of beer, 2.7 ounces of water to get my total of 18.5 ounces of liquid. It's 6.7 ounces of lye and 1.5 ounce of fragrance oil because I did 1/2 ounce per pound of oil. Let's see what else I added in here. 2.2 ounces of sodium lactate and 1 ounce of teakwood and citrus by Indigo Fragrance and 0.8 ounces of Indonesian teakwood to get my 1.5 ounce of fragrance weight. I went ahead and added just a little bit because I do want it to be a strong smelling bar. So that is my recipe. If you want to try it, feel free. And we'll see if it works together. Since it's my first time trying it, I might have to tweak it and whatnot. And that's the beautiful thing about soaping. You know, you can tweak your recipes too to put in additives or take away things that you prefer. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with each step. And as always, I'll show you how it looks as we go along. All right, I'm still waiting for my beer to freeze up, but I just wanted to show you a step that I did. I incorporate my kaolin clay into the oils. My oils are at 106 degrees, so I just went ahead and incorporated the kaolin clay in there, mixed it with my stick blender so I can make sure that it's incorporated well. I'm going to go ahead and see how my beer is freezing up, and if it's frozen up well, then I'm going to bring it outside and mix it with my lye and my sodium lactate. You want to use lye safety precautions always, which is gloves, goggles, mask in a well-ventilated area. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with that step, and once it's mixed, I'll show you what the lye mixture looks like prior to pouring it into the batter and bringing it to trace. All right, I just came back from outside mixing my lye together. My ice cubes were more like slushy, which is still good because it was cold enough to go ahead and mix the lye without worrying about burning the beer. You also have to make sure that your beer is really flat because I have been told, it didn't happen to me because I made sure it was really flat, that it does have a horrible reaction if there's alcohol still in it with the lye. So you want to be careful of that so it doesn't spill over or volcano over on you. I wanted to show you before I stirred that I just put a little bit of Tussa Silk in because a little bit goes a long, long way. So I'm just going to incorporate that into my lye. Beer does make the lye very hot, even though it was almost ice cubes. I'm going to go ahead and let it cool down a little bit because my oils are at 106. I haven't taken the temperature of the lye yet, but on the outside of the container it feels very hot. So I'm going to go ahead and just stir down my Tussa Silk, take a quick temperature reading, and then I'll bring it back. Alright, so my lye solution was still pretty hot. I went ahead and dissolved my Tussa Silk, and then I'm sticking this in an ice bath. It was about 136 degrees and my oils are already at 106. So I want the lye to cool down significantly so I can get the oils and lye within 5 to 10 degrees of each other. I'd rather the oils be a little warmer than the lye solution. That's just my preference. I don't know why. I figure since the oils are natural that it's okay if they're a little bit hotter. But if the lye is too hot, I don't want it to burn up my oils. So I'm going to go ahead and just continue with this process. And as always, I'll show you step by step. Alright, so I realized that I ran out of piping bags and I want to do a piped white top. So I made a little invention. I just took a Ziploc sandwich bag, put a hole in it at the bottom and connected my connectors for the piping. We shall see if this works. This is the first time I'm trying this too, but I just wanted to share with you what I'll be doing. I'm going to go ahead and take another temperature reading of the lye solution and see where we're at, and then we'll continue. Alright, my lye is at 102 and my oils is at 104, so this is perfect. I'm going to go ahead and mix them together, bring them to trace. I'm going to separate my batch because, like I said, I wanted to do a white pipe topping, and I'm going to do brown and white, and then I'm going to add the fragrance oil. We want to make sure with the teakwood and citrus, the new oil that I'm using by Indigo Fragrance, that it doesn't rice, that it doesn't seize my batch, that the color holds up and the scent holds up. I've never been disappointed with their oils, and they're the only oils I use for my soap making. The Indonesian teak wood is what I bought when I very first started soaping. So I had a little bit of that left over that I wanted to use. But from that point on, when I found Indigo Fragrance, it's the only fragrance company that I use. And everything always works out beautifully with their fragrances. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with the process and show you as we go along. All right, here is going to be the top portion of my batch. And here is the base portion of the beer soap. I'm going to go ahead and add again the full ounce of teak wood and citrus. And I'm going to add 0.8 ounces of Indonesian teak wood. Just to the base batch. We want to make sure that it doesn't rice, doesn't seize, doesn't discolor, and the scent holds up. And then I'm going to let this white portion, or the creamy tan portion looking part of the soap, thicken up so I can pipe it on top of my soap loaf. So I'll show you as soon as I have all that set up. Alright, so here's the base in the mold. And it smells incredible, and as you can see, it didn't seize, it didn't rise, and my brown is holding up nicely. I didn't add any fragrance to the topping because the base fragrance is pretty strong, and so I want it to even itself out. So I'm just waiting for this to thicken up so I can use my homemade piping bag and put it on the top of this beautiful first time beer soap. So we're just going to give it a couple minutes and we'll bring it back. Alright, so my little invention worked out well. And I like the way this looks because hopefully when I cut it, it'll look like beer foam on top. So I'm going to go ahead and let this rest for 24 hours and then we'll cut it and I'll let you see what it looks like. Thanks for watching. Alright, so it's been 24 hours. Here's my beer soap out of the mold, and I love the way it looks. I wanted it to look like beer on the bottom and foam on the top, and that's just how it looks. I'm going to go ahead and cut a couple of slices and let you see what it looks like on the inside. Alright, here's all my slices cut, and I have my sample bars cut as well. I love how it came out. The scent held up, the colors look beautiful. So I'm really excited for my first beer soap. Again, thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, just post them at the bottom of this video. Also, if you want to share your experience with this recipe, post them at the bottom of this video. I'd love to hear about them. Thanks.